Hello and welcome. I'm Rob.
Hello, I'm Ani.
And welcome to Richmond. Let's go.
Hey, which Richmond?
Oh yes, I forgot to say. Which Richmond? Good question. Now, I tell you what, see if you can guess from the clips that follow which Richmond in the world we're in. Run VT, as they say.
Have you guessed where we are yet?
Now, for those of you who've guessed correctly, yes, you're quite right. We are in the London borough of Richmond upon Thames in England. Now, I must confess, I didn't know this until we started to do our research about Richmond, but there are apparently some 60 Richmonds around the world. 29 of the 60 Richmonds are in America, and the rest are scattered all over the world, from Canada to South Africa, Australia, New Zealand and Jamaica. Incidentally, if you live in a Richmond somewhere around the world, do let us know in the comments. The name Richmond originates from Richmond in Normandy in France. When the Norman King William the Conqueror invaded and conquered England in 1066, he made one of his noblemen the Earl of Richmond in North Yorkshire. Many centuries later, the then Earl of Richmond, who also happened to be King Henry VII, decided to call his new palace, built in 1501, Richmond Palace. But Richmond Palace, as it was, has long gone. Only the gateway to the palace remains, as you can see here. The residential area and town that grew up surrounding the palace, now the London Borough of Richmond, lives on today. Today, Richmond is seen as one of the more upmarket places to live in London, and it has attracted some quite famous people. Apparently, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt bought a house in Richmond when they were together. Rolling Stone Mick Jagger used to have a house here, the singer Anastasia, and actors Tom Hardy and Richard E. Grant apparently live in Richmond too. But my personal favourite Richmond resident has to be Sir David Attenborough, who has brought an understanding of the natural world and impact of climate change to millions of people around the world through his programmes and campaigning. So, as you walk around Richmond High Street, who knows who you might bump into? The High Street has all the usual shops, plus a few more unusual independent retailers too. But we are not here to talk about shopping. We're here to explore the more peaceful and picturesque parts of Richmond. The King's Observatory, hidden away in the old Deer Park, was commissioned in 1769 by King George III. It is one of the most beautiful properties in the London area. The King was interested in astronomy and wanted to observe Venus cross the Sun on the 3rd of June 1769. The observatory's telescope cupola is the oldest of its type anywhere in the world. The cupola is basically the dome that sits on top of the building. The building was later used as a schoolhouse for the royal children. Today, the building is a private residence, so you can't just go wandering in. However, the house is normally open to visitors for a few days each year. Please do check out their website and book a tour before you visit. Now, you do have to go through an operational golf course to get to the King's Observatory, and there are flying golf balls occasionally across the path, so you do have to be prepared for that, and some protection might be necessary. Right, I'm ready. Hey! Okay, you can stop it now. Richmond Lock and Weir is along the River Thames between Richmond and Isleworth. It has 3 vertical metal sluice gates suspended from the footbridge. The Thames is a tidal river until Teddington Lock, a bit further up the river from here. For 2 hours either side of high tide, the sluice gates are winched up under the footbridge that runs above. This allows ships and boats to pass under the bridge. At all other times the barrier is closed and boats have to use the lock on the Richmond side of the weir. The barrier keeps the water at half tide level between the Richmond and Teddington locks. It was officially opened by the Duke and Duchess of York in 1894, so it doesn't look too bad for a bridge that's over 100 years old. You can get great views of the river from the footbridge that runs above Richmond Lock, and it's a very peaceful spot to explore on foot. However, the footbridge is only accessible via the stairs and doesn't have lifts for wheelchairs or those who can't manage a lot of stairs. You might think the Thames runs west to east through London, but in fact it's like a serpent snaking its way through the landscape. It goes through a series of huge bends, sometimes flowing east, but also sometimes flowing north or south. If you stand on Richmond Bridge and look towards Corporation Island and the Richmond Railway Bridge in the distance, the Thames at that point is actually flowing northwest, almost going back on itself towards Isleworth and then snaking on towards Chiswick, Hammersmith and eventually central London. If you go to the other side of the bridge and look towards the landing stage for the riverboats that stop at Richmond, you're actually facing towards the southeast. This is the only view in Britain specifically preserved by an Act of Parliament in 1902. It's a peaceful spot, as you can see, favoured by writers and artists for many years. The first famous painting of the Thames from this very spot was by Sir Joshua Reynolds and dates back to 1788. No doubt many other artists have come here too. The best view from the Richmond Hill viewing point is towards the southwest, looking towards a small island in the middle of the river. Depending on the time of year and the time of day, you can see glorious sunsets from this viewpoint. It gets quite busy though at weekends, bank holidays and school holidays, so you might want to walk down the hill and sit on the grass if you want a more tranquil experience. King Henry's Mound is in fact a round barrow or a prehistoric burial chamber. Round barrows are burial monuments from the Neolithic period to the late Bronze Age. Most round barrows date back to between 2400 to 1500 BC. Some people believe this viewpoint is called King Henry's Mound because this is where King Henry VIII, yes, that King Henry, the one with 6 wives, came to on the 19th of May 1536 to wait for a signal, probably a firework from the Tower of London in the distance, to signal that his wife Anne Boleyn had been beheaded, so he could then be free to marry his next wife, Jane Seymour. King Henry's Mound was later used as a viewing point for hunting and falconry. Today, in the 21st century, if you come here on a clear day, you can get panoramic views of the Thames Valley to the west and just about see St Paul's Cathedral in the east through the trees, although you may need to use the telescope provided. This mound is actually a scheduled monument, which means it's protected in law. Even the views from the mound are protected, and no new building work is allowed to spoil the view. At 2,300 acres, Richmond Park is the largest of London's royal parks. It was created in 1625 by King Charles I, who brought his court to Richmond Palace to escape the Great Plague ravaging London. Charles wanted a place to hunt and filled the park with red and fallow deer. Today it's a national nature reserve, a site of special scientific interest and a special area for conservation. The road that runs around the perimeter of the park is popular with runners and hikers. However, if you want to get away from the madding crowd of slow-moving cars, people and cyclists, head towards the middle of the park to Pen Ponds. It's a great spot to chill out and watch the birds and other wildlife. Now, you can't talk about Richmond Park without mentioning the deer. There are over 600 deer who roam freely around the park. However, you do need to be careful with the deer and not get too close, especially during the rutting season from September to November and the birthing season from May to July. It is also illegal to feed the deer. However, it's great to see them from a distance and photograph them too. There are also around 1,300 veteran trees in Richmond Park recorded on the Ancient Tree Inventory. 320 of these are classed as ancient. One of the most impressive of these is the Royal Oak, which can be found near Pen Ponds and is estimated to be around 750 years old. So, it has been rooted in this spot since the year 1273. Quite amazing. If you love flowers too, then check out the gardens at Pembroke Lodge near King Henry's Mount and the Isabella Plantation, which is near Pen Ponds, both within the boundary of Richmond Park. If you need something to eat and drink, you could go to the cafe or restaurant at Pembroke Lodge or the Pen Ponds Cafe, which, rather predictably, is near Pen Ponds. So, to wrap up, we hope we've given you some idea of what to see around Richmond that is away from the busy high street and the busy riverside area.
Some places to go, relax and enjoy the scenery.
Until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And see ya from me. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.